All right, the Reds, it's Tuesday's Talking Reds, joined today by Damian Kavanagh. Nice one for coming in, mate. Making his Talking Reds debut.
Yeah.
And getting stuck into the big stuff, really, because yesterday's Talking Reds, we didn't talk about the Carragher incident, and then we got a load of comments saying, well, why didn't you? Some on Twitter as well. So if you want us to talk about Jamie Carragher, we can. He was obviously on Talking Reds on Friday. It's fair to say that he's friends with some of the people involved in the Anfield rap. We all think highly of him. Fantastic player for Liverpool, 500 appearances, European Cup, everything else. Also done some great stuff in the city, supported charities, supported small businesses, supported us and helped us. And all that said, you cannot condone the fact that he's spat and it's ended up in the face of a 14-year-old girl, intentionally or not. I wouldn't for a minute attempt to defend that. What I would say is that the whole incident is slightly bizarre. Quite why a dad is driving along the road with a 14-year-old kid, trying to goad someone who appears on Sky repeatedly, and then seemingly made up when he gets a reaction as well. I mean, if you've watched the full video, which I'm guessing most of you will have done now, as a father myself, I find the glee in his voice that his daughter's got spit of Jamie Carragher on her. Bizarre, because you know this is what it says to me is this was a reaction the man wanted to happen. He was delighted to have caught it on camera and has no doubt made a few quid out of this all happening. All that said, as I say, you can't condone what Jamie's done. I think he's regretful, he's remorseful about it. He's done the big interview on Sky and looked to be virtually in tears at one point. He said he wants to carry on with his career, and all I would say is, look, you know, he's a human being like every single one of us. And I know I've made mistakes, I know I've done stupid things, I know if some of those things appeared on film and on the internet, you'd probably think less of me. Hey, we are what we are. And so, you know, what I hope for Jamie is that he's allowed to continue his career, he's allowed to eventually put this behind him. Obviously that's not going to be soon, he's suspended now by Sky, wasn't on Monday Night Football last night. But yeah, I think, look, he's a human and he deserves a second chance, and he's a very good football pundit, so I hope to see him back talking about football, doing what he does best, and hopefully can put this behind him. Cav, have you got
yeah, to be honest, yeah, you explained that well, and I wouldn't mind looking at some of your old videos by the sound of it, like, you know, if you've been, you know, anyone who's requested that we should be talking about this is bang on. How could we not talk about this? This is the thing to be talking about, and if we didn't talk about it here, then we'd be held up as people who don't want to talk about the bad stuff. So that's the first thing. So we should do. So anyone who's contacted us here and said we should be doing it, that's fine. I've kind of changed my mind a little bit how I felt about it, because it is an emotional thing. Kind of wake up to it, and I just thought there's no way back for him here. I mean, he's working for Sky, he's on the way home from working for Sky, and that happens. So I can understand why anyone would just have that view, but equally I don't know Carragher personally, he's not a friend of mine, but he's friends of friends, like you say, and we do know about him in this city, and we do know about him in this community, and he's done so much good cause work with his 23 Foundation. He's got like local soccer academy. Behind the scenes, he'll back any good local cause. You know, that is definitely his character. So that's not just him trying to sound good on the telly. That's not him trying to just look like he's crying on the news.
Well, there's loads of stuff he's done, isn't there, mate, that people don't know about, essentially. You know, he's give money to certain causes in the city, and I know this for a fact because I've heard it firsthand, but he's not then asked for publicity around. He's not bothered about that aspect of it.
Yeah, he's definitely a local boy come good, and he stayed true to those values and true to those. That's why he's so popular with the ground support of the lads. What I'd say is the best question I seen him get asked yesterday was by some interviewer, and I think it was on Sky, saying, well, how can you now talk about players doing bad things, you know, isn't that two-faced and all? I thought that's a great question. How do you get out of that, really? And what I'd say to that is, if we've seen a player spitting at another player on the pitch, we'd want him banned. We'd want the longest possible ban. We'd want everyone to say it's disgusting. We'd like to see the player made an example of to an extent. But we want the player to be sacked. Would the player lose his job over it?
Chief, never.
Well, there you go, you know, so there's your answer, you know what I mean? So I certainly, yesterday I was thinking, there's no way back for him, I can't see it, but having thought about it, he's shown genuine remorse.
He looks gutted, doesn't he?
You know, he really does. I'm sure it's amongst the worst times he's ever had. So it's a difficult one, and I can understand anyone, by the way, saying, you know, if Gary Neville had done that on the very same weekend, on the opposite journey home, how many scousers would be giving Gary Neville a time of day? Yeah, so we're open to that. So we've got to say 100%, we just totally don't condone it, don't think it's good. You can't say you can just forget about it. But he is a human being, he's good at his job. I think Sky value him. I think if Sky didn't think he was that good, I think he'd be out the door now. You know, there's a ratings war, is he going to end up working for BT instead and all this, you know, so the fact that the genuine remorse and the good character previously should count for something, and I hope it does.
Yeah, I mean, the red mist has descended, hasn't it? I mean, you know, and look, Jamie's done things in the past as well, you know, infamously threw a pound coin back into the crowd at Arsenal and things like that. You know, the red mist can defend. Some people have got that in their character, in their nature.
And at Anfield and at Old Trafford, in that particular fixture, people have to accept that there are things said in them games by both sides and things chanted in those games that is unacceptable. And it genuinely creates a very hateful, hostile atmosphere, you know, and so that whole, you know, atmosphere is surrounding the build-up to the game and how much the game counts, you know, and certainly, you know, that's not a good atmosphere to be in. Jamie knew that. Jamie's played in that atmosphere before. He should have been able to just go past it, and he doesn't need me to tell him that, does he?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, you know, the Sky interview that he did do, it was interesting where he was saying, you know, he's looking at it and it almost feels, looking at it now, it's like an out-of-body experience for him. It's obviously,
I'll bet, yeah.
It's something, you know, when he's rational, when he's relaxed, when he's not wound up, he's looking at it and he really regrets it. And look, he's made a mistake. I mean, you wanted us to talk about it, so there we have talked about it. No doubt you will all chip in with your comments below, like you always do. But it wasn't something we were shying away for any particular reason. I just felt on Monday morning that, you know, the thing you'd want us talking about was the match just gone. That's ordinarily what we do. There was no agenda behind it. No one told us not to talk about it or any of those theories I saw put in the comment boxes. So there you go, we talked about it now. Let us know what you think in the usual places. To move on then from Jamie and that incident, some stuff in the mirror that isn't about Jamie Carragher, which isn't a lot in the mirror lately. Mo Salah's transfer value has apparently increased more than any other player in Europe's top leagues, according to some stats people. They say that his value has gone from 66.4 million to 144.3 million in 6 months. I mean, first off, I guess 32 goals does that for you.
Yeah, you know, what a genius article that was.
If you're selling him, is that enough?
Well, it's not enough. He hasn't got a price at the moment, has he? He's been such a fabulous player for us. We've certainly done our bit in allowing other players to move on and further their careers, but that should be, not least, when it suits Liverpool and when they've done a shift and when they move us on to the next stage. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have no transfer speculation and have one of the best players in Europe playing for your team. We want to have 5 players with such a value, you know, and we want the Spanish giants or whoever to want to pay that kind of money, because it means that they're entertaining, that they're effective, they have got star quality. So that goes with the territory of having a boss player. And we've certainly been on the wrong end of that with Suarez and Coutinho and whoever. So, you know, the next challenge for Liverpool is, you know, let's keep moving forward and Project Jürgen. Let's make sure, you know, if he's backed, do we think he can take Liverpool to the next level? Can Mo think he loves playing in England, loves, you know, playing for our club? Can he achieve a genuine challenge for the domestic championship next season? Can he go for winning the European Cup here? Can we talk about moving somewhere else later in a few years? I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's not a big article, isn't it? Mo Salah's transfer value's gone up, has it? Guess what? Big shock. Thanks for the great investigative journalism there.
Joe Gomez is in there as well. Apparently his value's risen from 42 million up to 50.8 million now.
Oh, right.
So Gomez is up there as well. A few from other clubs as well, obviously. Ederson apparently is 87.5 million. Sane 134 million. Mbappe 167.1, etc. But yeah, just one of those little things. I mean, for me, the thing I would say is that it just emphasises what a good player we've got on our hands. And let's not get too downhearted about one result, you know, going against us.
No. I mean,
the misery arses have been out in force.
Listen, we're entitled to. I mean, it's a real sickener of getting beat by them. I mean, anyone would say that. You can't have it both ways. You can't say you'd be euphoric and then not gutted. You know, I understand all that, but I mean, you know, a sense of perspective for the season. 60 points, is it? Yeah. So 60 points, 30 games in. We'd have took that. We're in 4th place, which is a guaranteed place in there. The fixture list doesn't look too bad. We've got a couple of challenges, a couple of awkward games probably. We're in the last 8 of the big cup. And the football that we've been saved up this season has been genuinely, you know, getting you out of your seat. It's exciting. So we're on the way up, and if we can just get over the line here and make sure we get in that last 4 and make a genuine challenge. We shouldn't be scared of anyone. We can't be complacent, and I think Saturday's result shows that we can't be complacent. We've got a couple of little areas of where we're not so strong maybe, but you know, there's a lot to be positive about Liverpool, and it's understandable that we're all on a downer, you know. I mean, the rain felt worse yesterday than it would have done and all that, but we've got Watford at home, who aren't going anywhere, are they? Let's face it. On Saturday, R5 kick-off at home. The fans are showing that they're on side. You know, you look at the way the fans, you know, they had to stay behind, but, you know, the atmosphere that they kept, you know, despite a defeat, that, you know, continued on into, you know, the boss night, and that, you know, the fans, you know, got every reason to say, well, this is only the 4th defeat. Our reactions to the previous defeats have been very positive, haven't they? So, Watford at home, R5 kick-off. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Let's all go and enjoy that. And then throw our energy totally into that game. Nothing else matters, just win that game. And then again, Easter Saturday, Palace, do the same after the rest. You know, hopefully the players come back from the internationals okay. Just go and smash them. Put those 6 points on the board. Chelsea play Tottenham. Something's got to give.
Exactly.
We're in a strong position then, ahead of a quarter-final of the Champions League with a derby in the middle.
And United have got to go to have got City to play.
Yeah,
as well.
You know, so there's a lot to be positive about. So, you know, this is the week of the draw for the quarter-finals of the Champions League. These are the weeks that we want to be in. Let's be upbeat Reds. We've got every reason to be.
Is right. I second all of that. Jordan Henderson, another little topic for conversation today. James Pearce wrote something in the Echo just saying that Jordan could have played at Old Trafford should Jurgen have chosen to play. He didn't do that, and what James is arguing in his piece is that Liverpool actually missed them there at Old Trafford in that game. But he's also threw in the question of why, if he couldn't have played then, you know, basically why did he play against Porto when a dead rubber as well? I mean, what did you make of it? I mean, he's into his 7th year now at Liverpool. He's the captain of the club, and yet, you know, he still continues to divide opinion.
Well, that's a great statement in itself, isn't it? You know, if he's been at the club 7 years and he's captain and he's still dividing opinion, he hasn't done enough. I think that in itself, though, is a bit harsh. I personally would have started with him. I'm not going to overrule Jurgen. I think he's doing sound, and maybe, you know, Milner coming in with the great form. I didn't think it was unjustified, the selection that he made. I don't think Henderson would get as much game time or be as important member of the squad as any of our direct rivals for those top 4 places. But I do think the way he gets about the pitch does suit us. Yeah. And so for that reason, he's a valued squad member for me. So if he misses the odd game here and there, I don't think he can moan, because has he done enough in his time to be to not be left out? I don't think he's quite done that. But I do think he's got a contribution to make. And hindsight's a cracker, isn't it? You know, if the game had gone our way, would anyone be mentioning him?
I know, yeah.
And then the game doesn't go our way and they do well in midfield, and our midfield doesn't quite do as well as we wanted it to, particularly in the first half. And you think, well, Henderson's energy, snapping into a couple of tackles, breaking a couple of things up, would that have helped? It's a great question, and it divides opinion, and it even divides mine. I've got to be honest with you. I can't say any more than what I've said. You know, this long into his Liverpool career, has he done enough? But I still think he's valuable, because we don't need just 11 players, do we? We need 11 plus 7 and a couple more, particularly if we're going to be a club going forward where we're playing at the top end of the Premier League, the very top end of the Premier League, and we've got the Champions League as well. You're going to need fresh faces. You're going to, you know, people had the same reservations maybe about Oxlade-Chamberlain, you know, but it was like he's another body who can perform at a high level and can keep the momentum for the squad. So I understand the article. It's much better than the Daily Mirror transfer rubbish that we were looking at there before.
I mean, he's reinvented himself a little bit, or
he's actually
reinvented himself as a 6, as a deeper midfielder, you know, more of a defensive role. You'd probably say, wouldn't you? I think I'm fair in saying that he's better at that than Emre Can. I agree. At the defensive stuff, I mean.
I agree. So you know, and so I can see that. You know, I can see that. Although Emre's played some great games, and sometimes, I mean, maybe if Man United had been coming at us more, and Emre was breaking up more tackles, it would have suited him better. But as it worked out, that wasn't the game plan at all from that. But Jurgen would have known that.
Well, that's been the first section of that. We'll be back in a second there. We're going to have a look more at the papers, at the non-Carragher stuff in the papers today. Okay, back with the newspapers then, and lots of the back pages are focusing on Manchester City's win last night. That leaves them 2 wins from the title now, and potentially the opportunity to win it against Manchester United, which will obviously be quite sweet if you're from the blue side of Manchester. The 16 points clear at the top of the league, 21 above Liverpool now after that 2-0 win at Stoke. The record reads right now: played 30, won 26, drawn 3, lost 1, which is phenomenal form in anyone's book. It'd be their 5th league title if they manage to do it, which, you know, it looks pretty certain they will. And it will also, they can potentially do it on April the 7th, which will be the earliest the title has ever been won. I'm guessing that probably means Premier League rather than the whole of history, because that's the way stats tend to be.
Yeah, well, football
days.
was only invented in 1992, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was, yeah.
I don't know what all the fuss was out what we were going to before that.
No, we should just forget about it, shouldn't we, mate? You know what I mean? But what have you made of City? What else can you say about them? Fantastic side.
Brilliant.
The cruise last night.
You know, yeah, it was, yeah, and the stats are fantastic, but the style of football is fantastic. I think the manager, I mean, let's face it, Man City, you know, they should be buying themselves a title.
Yeah.
They should have bought themselves a European Cup by now. So I'm not dissing what they're doing. Like I say, the style of football is fantastic, you know, and that's quite progressive really and encouraging. You know, I know we all don't like Mourinho's tactics and he's got a certain degree of effectiveness, a great degree of effectiveness, but like Man City, playing the game and showing that you can be successful in that way, and Liverpool to their extent, and Spurs, I hope that's a genuine swing. You know, and Arsenal have tried and obviously failed this year, but historically have always tried that way. So I hope that sets an example. And I like Guardiola because he's quite gracious, really. He doesn't get involved, in arguing and slang, and he was quite, cool at Anfield, wasn't he? And he probably saw the defeat at Anfield as maybe a silver line and saying, here's a kick up the arse, because we've got a lot, we're not totally invincible, and we have to keep at it. And that might smack us, if we get them in the European Cup later or something like that. But I've got nothing other to say than well done. They should have done it with all the money. They've recruited well with Pep. The style of football is fantastic. What's not to like, other than the fact that it's not Liverpool? And
I was going to say to you, any party that worries a little bit about how good they are, how much they've won the league by this season potentially, just about, are you worried that they sort of disappear over the horizon and it's too hard to match what they're doing?
No, I don't think that. I think it's, certainly there are parallels with what Chelsea were doing. Chelsea were doing it before them, and they were sort of buying up the best players. And but at the end of the day, you can only field 11 at the same time, and there are other managers and there are other things that can go wrong, and they can have bad luck. They can have bad decision making. They can get a couple of transfers wrong, a couple of injuries. The relentless nature of the Premier League and the Champions League, and that's going to be going forward. I think Man City are far more interested in winning more European Cups than the Iron League. They've done the league bit now, and I think that I might be on that. So there's certainly been teams in history, Liverpool being one of them, where they win the league one year at a canter and don't win it the next year. So I'm not throwing my hand in here, far from it. I think we've got a great coach. I think we've got a good base. I think the onus is very much on the owners now to make sure that they back all that. That's the big thing, because there's no more excuses. This summer you've got your man, you've got your big stand, you've got your sponsorship, and you're looking at Man City and you say, right, well, we've gone toe to toe and we've beat them at Anfield. Now to go toe to toe and win that league, we need the more investment. So Man City might be there and we might win 3 titles on the bounce, but it's not a given, is it? It's not a given.
It's right. Okay, and what else? Oh, Spurs. I'm kind of oddly glad that I've got you in for this one, because years ago now, wasn't it? You wrote something for a magazine I used to put together called Well Read. Damien got in touch and he'd written a long article on ticket prices, which was excellent, and we published. And here we are still, mate, talking about ticket prices. Tottenham have announced ticket prices for their new stadium, which of course they move into next season. And some of the season tickets will cost £2,200.
Say that again.
£2,200. That ticket, that top priced season ticket, will include access to a private bar, complimentary food, and a seat among the supporters, expected to generate the most atmosphere in the single tier south stand. So basically,
is it complimentary drinks as well for that kind of money?
You get, well, it doesn't say complimentary drinks, does it? But you get to knock around basically with the proper supporters, but you get a bit of a corporate experience as well. That's what it seems like. But even there, for your ordinary lads and girls, the cheapest season tickets without any extras will cost £795, 30 quid more than at the old White Hart Lane. And basically it says, there's all different tiers, and there's the stadium's coloured in different things, same as at Anfield, but to a greater extent. It says here in the Times that most supporters are facing a rise of around, Tottenham fans, a rise of around 200 quid. It remains all a bit worrying, doesn't it? And
it's a disgrace, I mean, and to be honest with you, it's an area where I feel like the fans, us as a collective, have let ourselves down, because it's the classic divide and conquer of the working class. Because what will happen now is, Arsenal fans might say, well, our tickets are cheaper than yours, and sort of like blame Tottenham fans almost, do you know what I mean, for paying it. So, for as long as we keep getting picked off and divided, and Spurs stadium's going up by this much, and Liverpool's prices are going up by that much, and Man United's prepared to pay it, as long as we keep doing that, we're going to keep going round and round and round, and we're going to keep paying it because we love the game. So look at the money, the eye-watering money that they're getting from the TV deals. And so what happens in this TV situation is, with the sponsorship and the abroad rights and that, you've got like, well, there's loads more money, there's a big massive cake, so we're all going to get a go. All the agents are going to get their fees, the players are going to get astronomical wages, the Premier League's going to be rich, they can make big the grounds up, everyone's going to feel, hang on a minute, hang on, the supporters aren't getting any slice of the cake. Now, it was deemed by the Premier League that it was fair enough to charge 30 quid for an away ticket. And given the sponsorship money that comes in, what's wrong in aiming for that, for the whole ground, for example? And why is it not getting talked about? And why are we just continuing to bend over and take this right up the ass? Like we really are. And the only thing that we can do, really, and I'd certainly love to get involved in any of it, is we have to talk to the Spurs fans who go to the game every week. And we have to talk to the Man U fans who go to the game every week. And we have to make an alliance. So, you know, like the very successful walkout that we had, which was probably more successful than people had anticipated, with a quarter of the ground. I think within a week or so, the FA had dropped the ticket prices by a £5 for the semis and the final, even though we weren't still in the cup by then. So it's just a little chink of light there that shows you what can be done. If we can sort of get some kind of conference with the supporters union to say, listen, right, we're all going to boycott this weekend and that weekend, and we're all going to sit, you know, we're all going to make sure some kind of meaningful protest. The Premier League would shite themselves and we would win. And we only have to hit them once. But still, collectively, all these years in, no one's prepared to do enough about it.
I know.
It's a different strategy that's needed, you know, it is. So it's horrendous, you know, all those Spurs fans who followed them when they were rubbish, when they were serial underachievers, and now handing over their club to all these new Sky fans and all these other fans, and they'd feel betrayed. And it's the same at Anfield, you know, if we're getting, you know, the ticket price increases, we've got a different demographic now, haven't we? In our fan base, you know, so I'm not saying anything against Spurs. I'm including my team fully and our fans in this. We have got to get together and we have got to do better, because if we don't, those stats you just give out will just continue to roll up and roll up and roll up, and it's morally wrong.
You've got, you know, you saw Spirits of Shankly Football Supporters Federation do stuff around.
And it's great work, by the way. I'm not understating what they're doing, but it's not getting taken.
It's not enough fans.
It's not enough fans yet. Yeah, say for example, we all go to a match with a load of lads and they'll all agree. They'll all be salt of the earth, they'll all be proper heads. I go with salt of the earth lads, proper heads, and there's loads of pubs and loads of places, all the different teams, and they all agree, and they all think it's out of order. And they all say, yeah, that's a good idea, that off Spirits of Shankly, that Football Supporters, but we're not all prepared to do enough for it. I want to strike, everyone out.
There you go, that's how we saw the ticket prices. Damian's going to box it. The other thing, I don't really want to have a big chat on this because I don't think it's that interesting, I've got to be honest, is that, you know, Southampton have sacked Pellegrino. I mean, surprise, surprise. He won only 5 of 30 Premier League games and he's only won 1 of the last 17. The only thing I wanted to ask you about, mate, was the idea that in some way, which is being suggested in some quarters, this is in some way Van Dijk's fault.
Well, I don't think it's Van Dijk's fault, but I tell you what, I mean, I'm sure any Southampton supporter who was watching this the irony would be bouncing off the walls here, wouldn't it? Because basically what Southampton have done is they've got themselves a new ground, they're working, you know, going forward. They're an established Premier League team, they've played some nice footy, they've got Pochettino, he moves on. Any good player usually ends up at Anfield. So, I mean, you know, it's a bit of a sore subject for them, I'm sure, later than us talking about it. But however they work the strategy out going forward, they've just got to stop selling all these boss players. And it was quite underwhelming when they got Pellegrino in. And, you know, I don't particularly know what his pedigree was. And it might be a sad state for Southampton to say, well, that was the best we could attract. But, you know, strategically looking forward, they've got to think of some way of keeping the players, because there's like a real race to the bottom at the moment this year. Everyone wants to join West Brom in the Championship, don't they? You know what I mean? There's like the whole bottom half of the table. Do you know what I mean? And even Everton, who are comfortably now, you know, after a win, you know, higher up, their fans were, I don't think they had to, but their fans were genuinely worried that even they. So, like, up to, like, 8th or, you know, in the league, you know, but it's like you say, it's not a particularly interesting story for us. It's not Van Dijk's fault per se, but if you go Van Dijk and all the others, it is that fault, isn't it? You know what I mean? Well, so who's in charge of the club, and what's their strategy, and what did they have about the replacements that they sign, given the profits that they're making? Well, so the board has got to come into the equation here, hasn't it?
If we want to throw some shade back towards Southampton for blaming Van Dijk, or anyone who is blaming Van Dijk, maybe if you'd sold him in the summer for 75 million, say, and spent that on some lads who could score goals.
Maybe
it would have been.
I mean, you know, on a different level, you know, we've just, you know, we started, you know, at the top there after talking about Carragher. We started about talking about the players that Liverpool have lost, And we can't, and like I said, it's all about Mo Salah, we can't continue to keep, here's a boss player, let's make some money, here's a boss player, let's make some money. That can be part of your strategy to stabilise the club, but it can't be a long-term goal. And you can't keep going to the water. And that's what Southampton have done. And I feel sorry for their fans because they don't deserve any of that. But to blame it on Van Dijk,
you need a group.
nah, there's a bit more to it than that.
Yeah, you need a group, don't you? And I think that's what we're starting to get at Liverpool, isn't it? You need a group that's together, that understandings develop, they know how they win football matches, they know how they grind out football matches, and over a period of time that becomes almost an unstoppable force.
Yeah,
It feels like we're heading in the right direction.
I certainly feel like, yeah, so, yeah, chin up after the man loss.
Thanks to Damian for today's Talking Reds. On the Anfield app today, if you subscribe, there is a coach home and there is a midnight caller. I think they had to redo the coach home because they in fact spoke to a Southampton fan and then they sacked the manager overnight, so that cocked that one up. So that's being redone. But those two will be out there today if you subscribe, so give them a go. Free show from yesterday is out there as well if you want to relive what happened at Old Trafford. Stick with us, there'll be another Talking Reds tomorrow. And thanks again, Damian. We'll see you then.
Pleasure.